Welcome back, friends, to Build a Lot Acres. It's a cold day outside, but it's a perfect day to talk about one of the best garden tractors ever made, the MTD 990. Stay tuned. Really, guy? A lot of people, when they think MTD, probably think of cheap throwaway machines, and MTD did become that way, such as a lot of other brands did over the years. But MTD, despite its reputation in some areas, is probably one of the largest current garden tractor companies, lawn tractor, whatever you want to call them at this current date. But they bought a lot of these old garden tractor brands over the years and acquired them. And they did offer a really tough, rugged, reliable garden tractor back in the day. And that is the MTD 990. So the original MTD 990 1400 would have been built in Strongsville, Ohio between the years 1971 and 1984. So believe it or not, back in 1971, the cost of this machine would have been only $1,199.
That's it?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a lot.
So if you haven't seen the MTD 990 series, you're going to see in this video what they came out. They had a number of different brands that sold machines that were 990s rebadged as other brands. And one of the surefire ways that you can tell if it's a 990 is the hood shape with the headlights, as well as they almost always had 27 by 9.5 by 15 rear tires with a 4-lug pattern. So that's a very unique tire size and lug pattern that you're not going to find in many garden tractors. Ollie?
Yeah.
Want me in the video? What else can you tell us about the MTD 990, Ollie? What's that? I can't hear you. Oh, they featured a 14 horsepower single-cylinder Briggs engine and an Eaton hydrostatic transmission. Thank you for letting us know that. Anything else? Oh, wow. They had a 49.5-inch wheelbase and they weighed in at 875 pounds. Wow. So a pretty good sized machine and quite capable for the time. So the 990 actually had a few variants. We're going to stick with the MTD versions first, and then we'll get into some of the other brands to offer the 990. So they really had 4 main variants of the 990. They had the 995, the 998, the 999, and the 992. So you're probably wondering why I said the 992 last, but it actually came out after the other 990 versions that I just mentioned. So what can you tell us about the 995, Brett?
So the 995 would have been made from 1979 to 1993. So it would have featured a slightly bigger, slightly beefier 16 horsepower, 2-cylinder Briggs & Stratton engine.
It also offered a 2-speed Eaton tranny, weighed in at about 1,035 pounds, so quite a bit heavier than the original 990, but it only had a 3-gallon fuel tank, whereas the original 990 actually had a larger 4.5-gallon fuel tank.
Which, so I would imagine that smaller fuel tank, heavier tractor, more powerful engine, means you'd be doing a lot more fill-ups. Would you agree that you'd probably...
I'm going to guess they probably did this for a space reason. They probably needed something else with that bigger fuel tank, took up space. That's the only reason I can think why you'd have a bigger engine but a smaller fuel tank.
Well, yeah, it'd be like if you had a Ford Focus and a Ford Mustang, and then the Ford Focus just had a...
I don't know if it's quite that extreme of a comparison, guy. It's 2 horsepower.
Okay, it'd be like you having a Ford Ranger and a Ford F-150, and the Ranger has a significantly larger fuel tank. It just doesn't make sense.
Let us know in the comments below if you know why the 995 had a smaller fuel tank than its little brother, the 990.
It's like a Focus almost dead.
You.
So as far as implements go, it had 3 main ones: a 50-inch mowing deck, a 54-inch front blade, and a 48-inch snowblower, which would have been 2-stage, correct?
I'm not positive on that. I'm pretty sure it was a single stage.
So technically...
But it is worth noting that these 990s, I don't think we mentioned it earlier, they are shaft driven, which a lot of people are going to say is superior to something like a belt driven because you don't lose any power. You have less likelihood of it slipping. And if you're doing something like snow, you don't want the snowblower slipping in a tough, deep snowstorm.
Oh yeah, it's pretty important that your snowblower doesn't actually stop working.
So I don't know if it's a 2-stage or a single stage. I didn't look up that fact. If you know, please let us know in the comments below.
Please let us know in the comments below.
You like that?
Yeah. Where'd you come up with that?
So next up would be the MTD 998. This was only built for a couple of years, from 1993 until 1995.
As far as the specs go, it did have an upgraded engine, now an 18 horsepower engine, but it was still 2-cylinder, still a Briggs. And it still had an Eaton 2-speed tranny, but other than that, the specs were identical, so I'd assume it was just a revised new edition of the 995.
So the 999, which was built from 95 until 98, had a quite a bit larger 22 horsepower engine, and it was now a Kohler instead of a Briggs, which, by the way, I do want to do a video in the future on all the different classic garden tractor engine choices from the day, from Kohler to Briggs
To Wisconsin.
to Onan, and all the others. So let us know if you'd like to see that kind of video in the future, and we'll get it going. So other than that, I think the specs on the 999 are pretty similar to the 995 and the 998. Like Brett said, the engines did change a little bit, but the other parts of the machine are basically the same.
So the last one up would have been the 992, which was again made from 1995 to 1999. So it sort of featured 20 horsepower, 2-cylinder Briggs. But the big change with this one is that it was either a 50 or a 60-inch mowing deck.
So I believe this is the only MTD 990 variant so far that you could get a 60-inch deck instead of just the standard 50-inch. So if you wanted to mow a big yard, you might be better off looking for a 992. Now that we've covered all the MTD variants of the 990, let's get into some of the other brands that offered them too. And they would have been branded and painted in their coloring schemes.
Oh my.
Whew. So there's a lot to name. So unfortunately, I can't remember all of these names. So I am going to use a cheat sheet, but I'm pretty sure all of these different tractors were basically a 990 or one of the other variants that we just mentioned. So here they go. Columbia, Eaton, Agway, Bluegrass, Dayton, Farm King, Ranch King, Goodyear, Kingwood,
Lawn Flight, MTD, Unico. We then have the white GT 1650, which is similar to the 990. The GT 1655, which is similar to the 995. The GT 1855, which is similar to the 998. And the GT 2055, which is pretty similar to the 992. You also have the Wizard, the Yardman 14990, which is the same as the 990, and the Yardman 14995, which is the same as the 995. And they even sold these under J.C. Penney.
So quite a few different brands you could get as a 990. Now you see why we say they might be one of the best, kind of super garden tractors ever offered. They came in so many different brands and so many different variants that you could find a lot of them over the years. I've seen, I would say the Yardman that Brett just mentioned and the white, those two are probably the two most common that I see. And those are going to be, kind of modeled after some of the later 990 variants like the 995, 998. Where some of the other ones like the Dayton, Farm King, Columbia, those are more akin to the original 1970s 990 with the round headlights and the 14 or 16 horsepower engines.
Doesn't the guy who about equipment have a white?
Does. So right down the street from Brett's grandparents actually is a white, I'm not sure what model it is. I want to say it's either 1855 or 2055, but it's a pretty cool beefy looking machine, 2-speed axle, and it just looks pretty tough. We also feature one of these white tractors in one of our Zagray videos. I don't remember which one. If I can find it, I'll post it on the screen.
Also, I'd like to add that these 990s were being produced up until 1999. And so you have to think of what the garden tractor industry was going through even in 89, 10 years before this, that everything was owned by MTD or, Agco, something like
AYP.
AYP, yep. And everything was being cheapened, everything was being...
In the late 90s, for sure, this probably would have been one of the
Last.
heaviest, best built garden tractors you could find. A lot of the offerings at that time would have been complete junk.
Oh, yeah.
So if you get one of those classic green and yellow Yardmans or one of the gray and whites, it was a real beast back in that day.
And the other thing is for the money too, because yes, sure, there were other offerings from other brands, like Simplicity Legacy. You could have got that in 99. You couldn't have got that for this money.
Yeah, the money difference would have been humongous from say a white 2055 to say a Simplicity Legacy, especially if you got the diesel forward drive option. I mean, so if you were on a budget and you wanted still a heavy duty garden tractor, I think one of these MTD 990
Variants.
would have been the way to go.
Me too.
With all that said, we certainly hope you guys enjoyed today's video. One of the classic garden tractors of years past, perhaps one of the best budget garden tractors. I know we already used that title for Sears, but I think the MTD 990s, compared to other name brand machines cost back in the day, they were probably one of the best budget brand tractors you could find. And I'm sure over the years, these MTD 990s and their variants helped tame a whole lot of properties here in the States, as well as other parts of the world. So let us know if you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you
in the next one.